Bill Anderson. After almost 60 years as one of the genre's quietest champions, the man known for keeping it real finally decided to speak his mind, and wow, did he have some things to get off his chest. Picture this, you're standing in the same sacred circle as legends before you, surrounded by all that history and respect, and suddenly it feels like that circle's shrinking. It's like watching your hometown change until you barely recognize it anymore. Over the past few years, we've lost so many pillars of country, but losing the sound, the soul, the heart of it all? That's a whole different kind of heartbreak. So here's the deal, Bill Anderson finally broke his legendary silence, and what he had to say hit like a freight train. In a rare, no-holds-barred interview, he called out 5 massive names, 5 artists who, in his eyes, all had a hand in country music losing its identity. It wasn't about finger-pointing or drama. It was about telling the truth, plain and simple, even if it stings. He started with a name you probably wouldn't expect, Kenny Rogers. Yeah, the gambler himself. Bill's respect for Rogers was obvious, but he didn't sugarcoat it. To him, Kenny was the first domino to fall. When Rogers brought his silky smooth voice and that crossover swagger, country music suddenly got a makeover. All of a sudden, everything was glitzier, shinier, more polished. Sure, it sounded good, but was it real? Bill remembers the turning point, songs like Lady and that massive duet Islands in the Stream. They were everywhere. Next thing you know, record labels started chasing that easy-listening, radio-friendly sound. The porch light stories and honest heartbreaks started to fade under layers of synths and airbrushed ballads. Bill wasn't mad at Kenny for being talented, far from it. But he wondered, what was the real cost? The deeper he looked, the more he realized it wasn't just about sound. It was about the soul. The shift wasn't overnight, but once it started, it was like a river flooding the plains, unstoppable. Suddenly, the music that was supposed to be about real people, real stories, started sounding more at home in a shopping mall than at a backyard barbecue. And that ripple effect? It just kept rolling. Kenny's success showed the suits in the boardroom that glamour sold better than grit. So guess what happened? Storytelling, the very heart of country, got traded for radio formulas and catchy hooks. The music got bigger, but the stories got smaller. But Bill didn't stop there. Next up? Garth Brooks. If Kenny changed the sound, Garth changed the scale. Remember when country was all about small venues, acoustic sets, just you and the song under the porch light? Not anymore. Garth brought in fireworks, arena tours, high-flying stunts. Bill said it wasn't about hating on Garth's talent, he called him one of the most electric performers around. But the intimacy was gone. The music turned into a backdrop for the spectacle, and suddenly, fans were shouting over explosions instead of listening for the ache in a steel guitar. Think about that for a second. Country used to be about the little moments, the kind that made you sit in silence, holding your breath. Now it's all energy, all the time. Progress isn't a bad thing, but Bill mourned what got lost in the shuffle, that delicate connection between artist and audience, where you felt like the song was written just for you. Once, you could hear every crack in the singer's voice, now, you hear more smoke machines than soul. Anderson saw the shift up close. Backstage, it felt less like a group of songwriters sharing stories and more like a Broadway rehearsal, all about choreography and stagecraft. Even the artists who wanted to stay true to their roots felt the pressure to go big or go home. If you weren't playing stadiums or putting on a show, did you even count anymore? That question haunted Bill. And it's the question haunting country music today. Then came the bombshell, Taylor Swift. No anger, just disappointment. Bill gave Taylor her props, she's a gifted songwriter, especially in her early days, but he couldn't help feeling stung by how quickly she moved on. To him, she used country as a launchpad, then jetted off to pop superstardom. It wasn't just about losing a star, it was about what that said to everyone else. Used to be, country music was a lifelong home. Now, it's just a stop on the way to something bigger. Bill couldn't help but wonder, what does that teach the next generation? That country is just a phase. For him, that was the real heartbreak. And then, things got heated. Bill brought up Jason Aldean, and suddenly, you could feel the air get heavier. To Bill, Aldean wasn't just a trendsetter, he was the poster child for what he called bro country. You know the type, beer brands, lifted trucks, endless party anthems. The old stories about family, heartbreak, or scraping by. Pushed aside for tailgate parties and shiny cliches. Sure, those songs are catchy, but Bill missed the weight, the layers, the pain that gave country its bite. He wasn't hating on having fun. What bothered him was seeing the genre's emotional range shrink until it felt like every song was just a list of buzzwords over a basic beat. Where were the songs about regret, or love gone wrong, or holding on by your fingernails? For Bill, country music was always about more than celebrating a lifestyle. It was about the fights, the losses, the scars you don't show on Instagram. When those stories disappeared, so did something precious. But what really got Bill was how fast bro country became the only game in town. It was like an assembly line, everyone had to fit the mold, sing about trucks and girls, look a certain way. Authenticity got shoved to the side for whatever was most likely to trend. The young artists, bright, creative, maybe a little rough around the edges, were told to play it safe, or risk getting left behind. It felt like the soul of country music was being traded for chart positions. And then, finally, Bill mentioned Morgan Wallen. He didn't deny Wallen's talent, didn't trash his skills. But he did worry about what happens when an artist's headline-making controversies become more famous than their songs. Once, the biggest fight for country music was to earn respect, to show the world that its stories mattered. Now, the wild headlines risk drowning out the music itself. For Bill, country has always been about integrity, about living your truth, not just singing it. He wasn't calling for Wallen to be cancelled, just for the music to mean more than the drama. At the end of the day, Bill's words weren't about picking fights or blaming stars. His message was way deeper, he felt a kind of sadness, not anger. For him, country music is more than a sound. It's a way of life, a reflection of real human experiences. Every heartbreak, every triumph, every loss and laugh, it all used to find a place in the music. But now? He looks around and sometimes wonders if the music remembers what it was built on. There was a time, he said, when standing in the sacred circle meant something, a promise that every note, every lyric, was honest. Today, he fears that promise is fading. The genre isn't just changing, it's splitting apart, trying so hard to please everyone that it forgets the people who built it up in the first place. Young fans tuning in today might not even know what they're missing. They get the catchy hooks, the big shows, but they miss out on the pain and poetry that once made country songs feel like old friends. Bill's not just looking back with nostalgia. He wants the music to move forward, but with its heart still beating strong. Because once you lose that, once it's all about headlines or radio formulas or viral dances, the real country music is lost in the noise. He wrapped up his thoughts not with bitterness, but with a challenge. Bill's not trying to tear anyone down. He's hoping to wake everyone up. The artists he called out, Rogers, Brooks, Swift, Aldean, Wallen, aren't villains. They're all talented, all important, all part of the story. But each, in their own way, chipped away at the heart of country music. And here's the real takeaway, it's not about freezing country in time or saying back in my day. It's about holding on to the things that matter even as the world spins on. Bill's big question still hangs in the air, what's country music for? Is it just a product to sell? Or is it a way to speak the truth, even when it hurts? So if you're an up-and-coming songwriter out there, or just a fan who wants more from your music, Bill has a message, don't chase fame at the expense of feeling. Remember, anyone can sell out a stadium, but it takes something special to make someone cry alone on their porch. So, if you're still with me, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed for more deep dives like this. Let's keep the conversation, and the music, alive. Because, trust me, sometimes the quietest voices have the most to say.